you're kind of left up to your own devices to find what's going to work in order to make your art successful and economically sustainable. So on the other side of it, though, I do think that Web3, what's really cool is it filters out a lot of the community that's actually passionate about that intersection between the art and the technology.
Hi everyone, welcome yet to another episode of NewForum, and we're always excited to bring you awesome creators, visionaries, and investors on our podcast. And on today's episode, we have Moises Sanabria, who is an AI artist, developer, and member of communities such as Friends with Benefits. And I'm super excited to talk with him about Web3 communities, AI arts, and the potential of AI art in the Web3 space. Hi Moises, super happy to have you on today.
Hello, yes. Thank you for having me. It's really exciting.
So Moises, first off, how are you today? And I want to know your journey of becoming an AI artist in the Web3 space.
I'm doing very good right now. We just came back from NFT NYC with my wife. We both wanted to go the last year and then finally got the chance and the opportunity to do it this time around. I've been, as far as the journey, it's definitely a long one and just one of many directions and uncertainty and doubt and also a lot of hope. And I mean, I started looking into AI art when Deep Dream came out back in 2015, but kind of started deep diving into the technology in 2018.
And then, so how does this like work? Did you do art before, or did you start it off with AI art? And then what was the kind of like, were you interested in art before, or did you start off with being like, okay, I want to be an AI artist?
No, so I've been making art my whole life. I remember my dad seeing me drawing and my mom seeing me drawing, and they were like, oh, you should work for Mickey Mouse. So I started actually just since very little focusing on drawing and animation. And then as I got into college, I just discovered contemporary art and fine art and everything that's happening, just in contemporary art. And there's just no rules at that point. Like it could be a painting, it could be a sculpture, and that made it really exciting for me. So I kind of started combining, like, I guess, both sides of my brain in order to kind of reach this art and technology intersection, and been doing that since I started in college in like 2009. And since then, just kind of been evolving with the technology into what is now AI art.
Interesting. Yeah, I can really see in your art how, you bring many elements together. Like you said, like the technology part also inspires you. I see the thing with the cable, your profile pic and everything. And I'm wondering, what is the current state of AI production by artists? Like,
totally. I mean, I think even since 2015, we're starting to get these like sparkles of automation, sparkles of like something that you don't have to do because the mathematics and these machine learning models are letting you see things that we wouldn't normally see. And then, now back to 2022, seven years later, so much automation is happening to the point where we know what can be inside of an image using one of these models, and we can also, just based out of text, make an image with these similar like models. And there's just a lot going on in general. I think in the same way that the NFT space is moving very quickly, week to week, every couple of days, whether it's the market or just a new drop of a collection, like the same thing is with these models. And it's hard to, I guess, explain how fast it's going, but it can be something as quickly as like, 2 weeks. You'll just see different open source solutions and hackers and creative technologists going at these open source libraries and adding little things. Like one just small example would be, there's a model right now called Disco Diffusion, and you can, in the model, before it was a little harder to separate objects like the foreground from the background. And, in maybe less than 2 months, those things are quite easy to do and it's very open source. Like I would say the fastest way to keep up with the conversation would be on Twitter. In general, Twitter seems to be the best place for both crypto and AI art, edgy conversations about where things are going.
Interesting. Yeah, Twitter is its own little, crypto universe. I also tried doing a bit of AI art with anime, and because I really like anime, and then, but I'm wondering, when I did this, like these generated art pics, like how is that working with the IP? Like, because I'm wondering, is this like my own, like if I make a collection and I generate my own pieces, is this like, can I sell that as an NFT, or is it like a bit with the IP rules?
Totally.
Yeah, how does that work?
Yeah, that's definitely an art in and of itself. I think in a similar way, it's like, what can you mint and what can't you mint? It really depends on where you do it, how you do it, how tied you are to those communities. And with AI art, it can be something where, you can use any image as an input, even if you don't own the image. Technically, I mean, like the technology is not in general going to tell you like, hey, this, you don't own this Mickey Mouse image. But I think that the output should in general not resemble it to the point where people just feel like it's not adding anything to it. I think the same kind of copyright laws would apply, where if you're not adding enough to it, if the differences are too subtle, lawyers, or I don't know, like AI art lawyers or just NFT lawyers would find it really hard to kind of defend your stance on that. But yeah, I would say it's not even really directly tied to AI art. Just copyright law will have to keep evolving. I mean, one other example is like Winnie the Pooh is now like technically available for, free things to do with it after like the 100 years of copyright that they had. But it's still kind of a gray area, because it's like, which one? It's like, oh, the one that was made 100 years ago. So it might just be like the black and white Winnie the Pooh in this case. So it's in a case-by-case basis. I mean, if anyone's ever curious about whether it's something that they've made might infringe, I'm happy to, give my 2 cents in on that as well.
Yeah, I think this is so brilliant, because I feel like, what is really innovative when you make art, like where's the line? The line is really thin sometimes, because I don't know, there's this great book I read that's called like Steal Like an Artist or something like that. And that kind of like, all art is based around that there was an idea before, but then somebody evolved it into something else. So the line for me is, I think, really interesting. Could you explain to me AI24, the live stream platforms you're hosting for artists, creators, and storytellers?
Yeah, so I guess to tie it back to this idea of like creation acceleration, like all these AI art tools, they're coming in your smartphone, they are on the desktop. Google has their own service. There's bots on Discord that help you make AI art. And as I've been seeing all these tools come up in general, and that's the nature also of NFTs, is that you are your own kind of everything at this point. Like you can go ahead and like show your own project, or you find your own tools to make a work. And I think it's specifically with AI art, there's an opportunity there to showcase it, and to showcase it in a way that is like new to what live streaming is commonly used to, but also takes advantage of how fast and easy it can be to make an AI artwork, and kind of create an inclusive community in a live stream way. So the idea with AI24, it's a artificial intelligence live stream that will eventually, our goal is by the end of 2022 to run 24 hours. And the idea is to have like an open submission format where you can have images, videos. It can also be like audio reactive music, or short films, and just stream them in this channel. Currently, we're starting with YouTube, but in our roadmap, we're planning to be multi-stream and eventually reach other communities like in Twitch or TikTok, for example.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know why, but I just had the thought of like Bob Ross in my head. You know how we used to watch like these him drawing these oil paintings, and now it's like evolved, like. But I think it's a cool thing, and you know, like you said, there's so much to explore, like so many possibilities with what art can look like there. And really excited. I'm gonna definitely tune into that. And so Moises, I also see that you're an engineer at Abraham AI, and I'm curious to know like more about this like project. What are you doing there, and could you explain a bit your role?
Yeah, totally. So actually, in 2018, that's when I first did this deep dive into machine learning, and it was at the School of Machines in Berlin. And my professor was Gene Kogan at the time, and he was kind of the first person to explain. In his course was called Machine Learning for Artists, and that's what made it really appealing. I flew all the way. It was like a 30-day thing, and kind of since then I've just been in touch with Gene and his progress. And one of the projects he's really passionate about is Abraham AI, which is an autonomous artificial artist that uses the blockchain to kind of live and sustain itself in a community. And it's a very long-standing project. I think it's been running for maybe 4 years from like theory to practice. But you can check it out at abraham.ai. We're already up and running, and all you need is to connect with your wallet, and you can go ahead and use the top navigation search, type in kind of a description, a prompt of what you'd like to make, and it'll go ahead and create this artwork. And in the future, Abraham AI is also going to be a Web3 platform of some kind, where in exchange for your artwork, Abraham will let you mint the work, and there will be some kind of economic process where you might get some tokens or credits back to your wallet. Just check out the abraham.ai. The website is already up and running. You can make artworks then and there, and you can check out our Discord community. We also have a Discord bot of Abraham, and you can talk directly to it. So it has more of a GPT-3 machine learning model behind it, where you can kind of get opinions and have this interesting conversation. And you can also make AI artworks in Discord as well.
And I also see you've been making a movie for AI Film Festival, and I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, totally. So I think that was part of my inspiration in just seeing how the AI art community is just, finding ways to collaborate amongst each other or promote each other. And I was part of the AI Art Film Festival that was with Known Origin. There was like an open submission to make a short film and have it included in this NFT exhibition. And so my wife and I, her name is Fabiola Larios, we worked together in this film. And actually the film is inspired by how we met. And it's a short film. It's only 2 minutes long. I can link to it. We have it uploaded in our YouTube for AI24. And the movie in its essence is kind of like the AI art version of how we met online. So we met on Instagram. And so the idea was kind of like, if you have this internet connection, like how do you know that they're real, that they're, who they say they are on the other side? And then just eventually you find that there is a connection there you're kind of trying to bridge. And that's kind of the narrative. And then the visuals are all using different machine learning models for video, for image creation. Other things that the movie has is like a image segmentation. So it's ways to use pre-recorded footage or recorded footage that we made and divide the foreground from the background and kind of replace the background, which used to be done with green screen or things like that. But just machine learning tools now make it a lot more easier to make these things. And part of my just reason into us kind of approaching that movie was because it was doable. It felt something that we could do fairly quickly. I would say it took about 2 weeks to make this 2-minute short film, and we're looking into doing a few more films in the coming months.
Wow, what a story. Like that is so next level Web3. I'm so like it makes so much sense though to me, because imagine all of the memories and like artworks and things that we just store on our phone, and like how this collective data can be used, like for example in AI to display memories or create new moments. And it's just really amazing to see what is possible out there, like new creatively. And yeah, like you said, you if you meet on the internet, you share kind of like also like an internet language, I guess, or internet like
Totally.
common language. And so really interesting. And you've been showing a sculpture about AI and Web3 in Mexico City, and how did that went for you?
Yeah, so actually that got postponed to the end of July. So I'll keep you guys in tune with how it goes. But the piece is in works, and so I'm really inspired by kind of connecting the two things. So my background is in contemporary art and fine art. I went to school and majored in sculpture out of all things. And the school I went to was a art, architecture, and engineering school. So I always wanted to take advantage of a metal shop and a wood shop, and the artwork. It's a sculpture. Haven't really given it a name yet, but the curator was really looking forward for me making an object, and I hadn't been making objects in a long time, actually, because of all the AI art works that I've been exploring. And so the object itself is kind of this connection between Web3 and just physical objects. So the idea is like, how would you visualize an NFT, like in general, like this digital, non-fungible, something that you can't break up thing? How would you visualize it as a sculpture and kind of tie it back to the blockchain and tie it back to this thing that has this public ledger that is immutable and that you can't change? And so the idea there right now, so far, what I have is this 3D cube that's made out of chains, and it's a cube, kind of like if anyone's familiar with Sol LeWitt's work, he made like these white cubes that were like just had this certain pattern. It was all about kind of like conceptual art, and he would prioritize the idea above the sculpture. In some ways, I want to play with that, where in AI art or in NFTs, the digital or a text or the machine learning model is kind of prioritized over a physical sculpture. Like, we're just, in a way, that the trend has been leaning towards the digital. And so this object is a cube made out of metal chains, and the metal chains are welded in a specific ways to kind of give it this idea that it's like self-sustaining, like it's just self-standing. It doesn't have any other structure that makes the cube other than the chain. And inside of it, it's still TBD, but it will be some kind of hologram or projector or laser-based, very, very digitally native material, almost like something you can't hold, something you can't grasp. And so kind of have that contrast between this heavy metal object and this really lightweight and kind of ephemeral other medium. And then as far as the image itself, I'm still kind of churning on through like what would it be, but eventually that object will be minted, and so when you buy the NFT, you also will get the sculpture. I'll ship you your heavy metal blockchain hologram sculpture along with your NFT.
That's amazing. The digital life, out here.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, how do you keep the balance also with your art making process? Like, how do you decide, okay, I'm gonna, for me, it's like we spend so much time now in the Web3 space, and it can be overwhelming. So how do you keep the balance to, also have events or have like things going on in your real life that keeps you in balance, but not lose track of like the Web3 aspect?
Yeah, no, it's definitely learning to juggle many things. And I think I'm trying to do a better job at like, what can I do that makes the most with the least amount of time. So I think that's why I've been leaning a lot into AI art. There's a lot of ways that you can just think about ideas, and then when you're ready to turn those text into images, you can do that at a later point. So I can go ahead and write all the text that I want on my phone, and then whenever either my GPU is kind of ready to run, I can go ahead and take 10 minutes. I enjoy a lot of the apps that are based on the phone in general, whether it's like some kind of deep fake app, or there's these motion graphics apps, almost like After Effects for your phone, or AI art generating apps, and being able to do things from the phone. Actually, just because of that, you might be on a car ride or on a bus or something like that, and you can kind of keep your artistic process like with you and not be tied to either your desktop computer or even your laptop. Because I definitely have to keep a balance. I think my wife and I do a really good job at trying to find time. Like we're here in Miami Beach, and maybe a month and a half ago, we didn't go to the beach like almost the whole month. And so we're doing a lot better job now. We try to go every week, and it makes it a whole lot better. Like your creation process is better. The way you can even take in information is better. It's definitely easy to kind of get overloaded with even good news or just technology. You can just kind of not maybe be paralyzed, but it's just too much, and you just kind of need to find these ways to break away and look somewhere else, go eat an ice cream or something.
Yeah, you definitely need like these creative breaks, because you can burn your fire really quickly if you on the laptop 24/7. I'm definitely going to check out these AI apps. These sound super interesting. Like you said, you can be on the go and create. I really like that about the phone and the iPad vibe,
Yeah.
My last question would be like, what do you like in general, what do you think has the Web3 like done to your art and creation process? Like how in general, like how did you find this whole experience for yourself, and what are you looking forward to in the future?
I think it's the one thing it's definitely making me think a lot about is just how artists are sustainable in their practice. And I mean, I definitely think the technology is good for artists. It makes us more entrepreneurial. It makes us all more self-sustained, not having to depend on galleries. It definitely doesn't mean it solves everything for you. You're not just going to mint NFTs and start paying rent with them, tomorrow kind of thing. It takes, it might even take a team between like you might be doing the creation, someone might be writing your custom contract, or at least has the insights to kind of making either your community or Discord or the launch of your PFP successful. So I think there's definitely a lot of moving parts in it, but it's a good thing. And it's definitely made me realize I need to hone in on that a lot more. In general, I mean, whether it's art school or life in general, you kind of left up to your own devices to find what's going to work in order to make your art successful and economically sustainable. So kind of working on that now. And then on the other side of it, though, I do think that Web3, what's really cool is it filters out a lot of the community that's actually passionate about that intersection between the art and the technology. Usually, if someone is into art but doesn't know Web3, there's just something there that they're either not wanting to learn because of they might feel they're not ready for it, or it's too complicated. But when you do find those people that are, whether they know or not, they're willing to just have those conversations with you and connect, you find a community that's willing to support each other. And in this case, for my wife and I, for example, is we learned about Friends with Benefits in the DAO communities, and also Refraction DAO. That's another one. We actually just went to both of their events at NFT NYC, and you just feel it around. Like when they have an IRL event, you can get kind of deeper in a conversation really quickly. It doesn't have to be this thing where you might not know someone. Just the fact that you both are in the same DAO, and like you mentioned, you have the same words, you're kind of using the same internet slang and things. It makes that connection closer. And so I think that's something I'm looking forward to in the future, just like how how are these connections with Web3 communities going to kind of help everyone involved? Actually, in regards to AI 24, we're kind of doing that now, where we're not particularly thinking about DAOs as a AI 24 project, but we are thinking of going into DAOs and seeing what we can offer. So the idea, for example, is I just joined a Web3 community called Song Camp, and I want to meet musicians there that want to visualize their work or want to create album covers. And they're kind of doing the audio aspect, whether it's music production or, maybe they're playing live instruments. And it's like, how do we meet you at the other half of that, where we can live stream visuals that are audio reactive to your works, and also doing that with members of FWB. And yeah, it seems like it's a long haul. Like AI is not going anywhere and anytime soon. There was actually a convo I was having on Twitter about that. Someone's like, how long's the gold rush of like all this AI art stuff gonna last? But I think it has a long way to go, and we've yet to see the end of this journey.
Yeah, I agree. We barely touched the surface right now. And like you said, I think this is like the one thing I really appreciate about the pandemic part, where like because of that, we turned to the internet and we created this new like space, and we really thought about, okay, like how can we innovate and it's so cool, like you said, meeting people now in real life that from the space. It's like a different connection. And thank you so much, Moises, for joining us today. And I would love to know where our audience could find you on your social platforms.
Yeah, so I was more of an Instagram person earlier in my life. Let's say like when I was in college, but I'm definitely leaning towards Twitter. I think the live Twitter spaces is just an amazing way to just connect with people. Like just the fact that you can hear people and laugh or joke around, that makes it a place where I tend to go more now. And I still post stuff on Instagram. So actually I got access to DALL-E through my wife, and it's been really amazing putting like new works up, especially things that I've been wanting to make but couldn't afford to buy this material or have a place to store it in the meantime, or have access to a wood shop. And now all these things I can kind of explore them on Instagram and on Twitter. So yeah, I would say feel free to reach out on any of those two platforms. Also, as far as education, my wife and I both teach AI art, so that's something we're looking forward to doing more this year. This year we actually taught both in Florida at the Florida International University, taught at Connecticut College. There's this more like art and technologies, like critical design school in Berlin called School of Machines. And we also taught some classes there. And the idea for us, when it comes to adoption, like of AI art, like if anyone's just remotely curious to learn, I think what we try to do is get you to the point where you feel like a beginner. And I think what that means is that if you're a beginner, the difference between like someone that knows more than you or like a master, and you can kind of have a path. And many people actually are even too afraid to call themselves a beginner. And it's like, how can you do that? How can you empower someone to say like, oh, I'm going to start this journey, and these are my first steps?
Yeah, exactly. It's never too late to start. It's always be curious, don't be afraid to be a beginner. I think that's like the beginner mindset is like, you always have a beginner mindset. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today on NewForum. If you guys want to get more involved within our community, make sure to follow us on our social platforms. IG is newcoin_NCO and also NewForum. And we have a private Telegram group as well as Discord. And I'm going to link all of the links as well as Moises' links down below. And I will see you in the next episode of NewForum. Thank you guys.